Hello and welcome to another one of my tech videos. This is a quick beginner's guide on how to make a virtual machine. Now, before we delve into the process of actually making a virtual machine, let's start off as beginners by asking ourselves, what is exactly a virtual machine? The short answer is that a virtual machine is basically a PC within a PC. Simple enough concept. The long answer is that a virtual machine is the process of taking a bunch of your computer's physical resources, that is the RAM and the processing power, and using them to simulate another computer using software in which you can install and simulate other operating systems. Those operating systems can be similar to the one you're running, I guess. Let's say you have a Windows 10 and you want to simulate 7 or Vista or XP. Or you can simulate other operating systems like Linux or Mac OS. There are two main applications that we use to do something like this. The first one is a VMware player. It's the only free product that VMware gives to its users, free from non-commercial use, of course. And the other one is Oracle VirtualBox, also free for non-commercial use. They're both slightly different in methods, but each of them do basically the same thing. Now it's good to note that if you have a 32-bit processor and you want to make a 64-bit virtual machine, you can't do that. A 32-bit processor is not capable of simulating a 64-bit one. No matter how hard you try to manipulate the architecture, it simply won't do that. To know if you have a 64-bit processor, you must first check if it has more than one core. If it has 2 or more cores, it's a 64-bit processor, so you don't have to worry about this problem. Another thing that's good to note is that you must examine your physical resources and be sure not to overuse them, I guess, in making virtual machines. If you have 8 gigs of RAM, the recommended size for a virtual machine is half of your RAM, I guess, 4, or you can run 2 virtual machines at the same time, each having 2 gigs of RAM. The idea is to make sure that your physical operating system has enough memory to work in the background. Now, in my case, having 32 gigs, I could potentially run about 5 or 6 operating systems, virtual operating systems, and still have enough memory to run my main operating system. But with less physical resources, be very careful how much memory you give each virtual machine and how many you run at the same time. Okay, now that we have that out of our way, let's start off by making a virtual machine in VirtualBox. So we have VirtualBox over here. We click New. give the virtual machine a name. If I type Windows 10, it will probably select 10 on the version down below. Yeah, it did that. Let's click next. Here we select the amount of memory we want, in fact, to allow our virtual machine. In my case, I can give it up to my maximum physical memory, but I won't do that. Let's leave it at 2 gigs. Create a hard disk. This is of course a virtual hard disk in which the virtual machine will be stored. The recommended size of the hard disk is 50 gigs. Okay. Now here it asks me what type of format do I want that virtual disk to be. This is the native format of VirtualBox, and VHD is a more universal file type that is recognized by other applications like VMware. I usually like to select this one. Dynamically allocated or fixed size. This means that the hard drive will be adjusted accordingly as it grows. At the beginning will be next to nothing. It will occupy a couple of kilobytes on your physical hard drive, but as you expand the operating system, the file size, it will gradually increase. Fixed will give you 50 gigs from the beginning, and it will occupy a significant portion of your physical hard drive, so I recommend staying with dynamically allocated. The recommended size is 50 gigs, but we can select how much we want. 4 megabytes. No, that's not enough. For Windows 10, the bare minimum is, I guess, 30 gigs. Okay, let's leave 32 gigs. Now, if we turn this virtual machine on right now, it will be an empty shell. It won't have an operating system. To install an operating system on this virtual machine, we have to give it an install kit, like we do on a physical machine. To do this, we go to Settings, Storage, and click on its virtual optical drive. Here we select an ISO file of an operating system. In our case, we have 7 Home Premium and Windows 10 Pro, I think. Let's select Windows 10. Okay. And now with an ISO attached to its virtual optical drive, now we can start the virtual machine. Okay, simple enough. It booted and now it's giving us the installation process. we won't go through the installation process. I'm sure you know how to install a Windows operating system, so let's leave it at that. Now let's move on to VMware. Now I know what you're gonna say. This is not VMware Player, this is VMware Workstation. But don't worry. The process of creating a virtual machine in both of those applications are basically the same. So there really isn't much of a difference. To make a virtual machine in VMware, you click File, New Virtual Machine. If you want to speed up the process of actually creating a virtual machine, I suggest you leave it at typical. Click Next. Select an ISO file as you did in VirtualBox. Let's select Windows 10 again. Next. Windows 10 64. Next. Now, I don't know why you should want to split the virtual disk into multiple files. I prefer keeping it in a single file. (32). Here you can further customize your hardware if you like. Give it more cores or expand the RAM. We power it on and it will boot in the installation process as it did in VirtualBox. Now, as you can see, I'm running 3 operating systems at the same time. I have my main operating system and 2 others working in the background. If I check my resources, you can see that 11 gigs of RAM are used at this moment, and 4 of them are used to maintain these 2 operating systems. Again, be very careful how much resources you allocate to each virtual machine and how many you are able to run at the same time. Do not force your physical PC to run over its limit, because at some point it will stop responding and your whole computer will begin to freeze. Now, as you can see, I installed Linux as well on VMware, and we'll use Linux to learn more about this particular operating systems in future tutorials. For now, this has been a quick guide on how to use software to create virtual machines. I hope this has been useful for you, and I hope to see you in future videos. Until then, have a nice day.